So today, Lindsey, to start today's session, I'd like to ask about diet. For all of us, even without a cancer diagnosis, we know that what we ingest has a massive impact on our lives. So following a diagnosis, we often become far more conscious of this. So with this in mind, I was wondering if we could explore gut health, or rather how we can have good gut health.
Okay, so gut health, one of my favorite subjects. Our gut influences absolutely every aspect of our health. There's a saying in nutritional therapy circles that what happens in the gut is not like Vegas. What happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut. It affects absolutely every single part of our body. It affects our musculoskeletal system, so joint pains or aching muscles. It affects our immune system health. So if you find yourself getting recurring infections or autoimmune conditions can often start in the gut. It affects our endocrine system, which I'm going to be talking about in a lot more detail later, but that's our sex hormones, our thyroid hormones, it's our weight management, it's how we manage our menopause. It's our thyroid as well. It affects our cardiovascular system, so that's our cholesterol and our blood pressure. It also affects our skin, so eczema and psoriasis and acne, there are more often than not connections to our gut health. And it also affects our nervous system health, which I'm going to be, again, talking about in a bit more detail later on. There is a very strong connection between our gut and our brain health. So what can quite often happen is that people just become accustomed to having bad gut health. We start to think it's normal to have bloating or to have excess wind or whatever. We just deal with it. And I just want to reiterate that it's not that gut issues like bloating and excess wind and constipation and diarrhea or indigestion, they are not things that we should become accustomed to. They are things that we can actually support and manage, either through diet or supplements, or if necessary, they should be investigated properly medically. So I'm going to talk through a few things that you can do to support your gut health. I don't want to overwhelm you. What I want to make clear right from the beginning is that nutrition is such a huge area, and there's so much information out there. But what is important is that if you just make one positive change, just one small change, that can have a knock-on effect. So just make one small change, build on it, and then add another one when that one small change has become a habit. So I'm going to try today to give you some small changes that you can start to implement. Some of them, of course, you may have introduced already. But you can ask me questions at the end, let me know how you get on. So the first thing with our gut is to remove or to reduce what's damaging our gut health. And there are so many things that can damage our guts, especially in the world that we live in today. If you think about all of the toxins that we're exposed to, those can all affect our gut. Medications will affect our gut, antibiotics. A lot of the medications that you may be on, you can't remove or reduce, but what you can do is then support your gut around those. But it is just be aware that anything that we eat does have an impact on or ingest, if it's medications, will have an impact on our gut health. And it's just something to be aware of, that, like I said earlier, what's going on in your gut can be affecting other systems as well. Things to be careful of as well that can affect our gut health are sugar, artificial sweeteners. They are incredibly damaging to our gut health. Everyone thought that by removing sugar, that would reduce the damage that we're doing, but artificial sweeteners do just as much damage. Alcohol is very damaging to our gut. It damages it upsets both the microbiome and the gut lining. Other things that damage, if you are intolerant to certain foods, about 50% of the population are lactose intolerant. That doesn't mean that you can't have any milk at all, but it can mean that too many dairy products will have an effect on your gut health. Some people are also gluten intolerant. there's a difference between gluten intolerance and celiac, which is an allergy to gluten. So if you are continuously eating things that you are intolerant to, it is also going to cause damage to your gut. Other things include overexercise and stress. Any form of stress affects our gut. I'm going to be talking in a bit more detail later on about how stress can affect our gut health and our mental health. So the first thing to do really is to consider, and refined foods as well are also damaging to our gut health. So the first thing to do really is to consider what is damaging your health and what can you remove or reduce. Some, as I said before, some things you won't be able to reduce. And from there, once you've done that, then the next step is to think about how many fruit and vegetables you're eating. So we've always been advised to eat 5 fruit and veg. Ideally, we should actually be eating more than that. We nutritional therapists generally ask our clients to aim for about 10 different kinds a day, which is a lot, but that takes time. It's taken me about 5 years to build up the amount of vegetables that I eat in my diet. And it means a change in your shopping habits and in the way that you cook. So even if you identify that you're maybe eating 1 vegetable a day, then try and add in 1 more. And keep going at that. It doesn't matter if it takes you 5 years to get to that point where you're eating a broad variety. But the whole idea behind, first of all, we need all of that fiber. There is a strong correlation between the amount of plant fiber that we eat and various illnesses. So we need lots of fiber. And in the Western diet, most of us don't eat enough fiber. From those plants and vegetables, we also, they've got polyphenols and other kinds of phytonutrients that we need, and they support our gut bacteria. All of that fiber and all of those nutrients feed our gut bacteria. And because we want to have as varied a microbiome, and our microbiome that includes all the bacteria, and we've even got viruses, we've got parasites that we want in there. Obviously, there's some that we don't want, but it's a living organism that we've got there, and we need to feed it well. And what we feed them, it's vegetables. So the more variety you can give them, the happier they'll be. So increase your veg to however many you can. And I would say that is probably the first really positive thing that you can do to support your gut health. The next thing is a really obvious one, but something that so many of us, and I have days like that as well, where I forget to drink enough water. We should be aiming for between 1.5 liters to 2 liters of water a day. And again, that is habit change. I tend to fill up a jug with water in the morning and try to get through 2 of those throughout the day. That water would also include herbal teas as well, and also any soups or smoothies that you're having as well. And then the other step, so that's to remove what's damaging you, increase your veg. The third one is also another really obvious one, and that is chew your food well. Chewing our food, that starts the whole digestive process really. It's a mechanical and it's a chemical process as well. We've got saliva. Our saliva has got digestive enzymes in it, and when we start chewing, what it does, it has a knock-on effect. It's like a domino effect that goes all the way through our digestive system. It encourages the release of our stomach acid, and our stomach acid, we need that for breaking down protein. Quite often bloating may be caused by protein that isn't being digested properly. So we want our stomach acid to be released, and chewing encourages that. It also encourages the release of the digestive enzymes further down that we get from our pancreas, that will break down the fat and the carbs further down. So chewing is also one of the most important things you can do. And I would advise just to first observe how well you chew your food. And I know when you've got small kids running around, eating slowly and mindfully and chewing well is not always that easy to do. But it's a game that you can play with your children too, is just encouraging them when they're a bit older to count how many times they're chewing their food. And ideally, we should be chewing each mouthful around about 25 times, which is a lot. but it is something that we should all be aiming towards. So first of all, remove what's damaging you, increase your vegetable intake, drink sufficient water, and chew your food well. And then the fourth one is much harder, or the fifth one actually. The fifth one is much harder for everyone to do. Everyone, doesn't matter what your circumstances, it is a tricky one to do, and that is manage your stress levels. And this is because stress has got such a big impact on our gut health. It damages the gut lining. It upsets the upsets the balance of our gut bacteria. Stress is pro-inflammatory. So it's just really important that we incorporate moments of quiet in our day. But we have two nervous system modes. One is parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest, and the other one is fight or flight. And because of the life that most of us live in, our fight and flight mode is way more dominant, and we really need that rest and digest mode so that we can rest, obviously, and digest our food. If we're not digesting our food properly, it's going to have a knock-on effect on our gut health, which is going to have a knock-on effect on every other system. And I think that's pretty much it as far as gut health goes, if that's okay. Because I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the gut and the brain connection. Well, I'll go into a little bit more detail about the gut.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm just going to stop the recording there.